The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Shalom and welcome to the Synagogue. This is a podcast for consenting adults for information, education, and entertainment on BDSM, sexuality, and all things related. If you're not a legal, enthusiastically consenting adult, then
pick up the needle, press pause, or turn the radio off.
For those who remain, now might be a good time to switch to your headphones.
Welcome to the Synagogue. I am your host. They call me the Rabbi.
Pretty fly for a rabbi.
I put the sin in synagogue, and I am a cisgender, ambimorous, gynosexual, sadistic, bratty daddy doll. Sex therapist by day, kink educator by night, and in both these roles, I help people make their kink a religious experience. While I am a mental health professional, this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not a replacement for therapy. Seek out the assistance of a trained professional for help with your specific situation. Hosting with me today is my partner, my ADHD squirrel wrangler, my submissive, my brat, my little, my pony, or just my little pony.
Aww.
The Joni to my Chachi. Little bit.
Wow, dude, you've picked out some. Wow. Okay.
Joni loves Chachi, though.
I get this.
This is episode number 18, and with us today is Lexi to talk to us about tight, slick, and oh so shiny, getting familiar with latex. An introduction to latex fashion and kink. We'll discuss what makes latex so great for sensation play, feeling like a superhero, bondage, or even just everyday wear. It can be overwhelming to get into, so we'll talk about what to look for when purchasing, how to get it on, how to take care of it, how this kink has crossovers with other kinks, and more. But first, a word from our sponsor. Lexi has been exploring and enjoying the wonders of latex for over 20 years. She has always been a sensation seeker, and when she stumbled upon the existence of latex clothing online with her dial-up connection back in the late 90s, she knew this was her destiny. She started her latex wardrobe in 2007 and has since developed a modest collection of latex garments of all kinds. She loves sharing her enthusiasm and experience gained from the years of research, trial and error, and of course, play with this wonderful material. Thank you for being here in the Synagogue, Lexi. Let's talk latex.
Yay, welcome.
Thanks for having me. This is going to be fun.
Hey.
So, latex. I very frequently get people coming to me and say, what do I do? How do I get into this? It's so shiny, but I'm overwhelmed. And I get it. Like, you see all these photos online of people with all these shiny, super tight, pretty outfits, and you don't even know where to go. And so there's, I give these classes and talks to try to help share the basics about latex because it's so fun and so enjoyable, and I like to see other people get to enjoy this just as much as I do. So I would really like to know what you, as someone who maybe does not know about latex fashion, latex wear, or the kink, like what is the first thing that you want to know about latex fashion?
So the first question I have is, in the kink sense, is rubber and latex interchangeable, or are those two different things?
So technically they are different things. One is a natural product, the other is synthetic.
Okay.
But for all intents and purposes, the terms are used interchangeably. And for most, nearly all applications, you don't need to know the difference. Most, for the fashion, the latex wear, all the kink stuff, it's all made of natural latex, which is produced from the sap of the rubber tree. And being a natural product, one thing to be aware of, one of the first things to be aware of, is that it can be an allergen.
Sure.
And so many people, you're probably aware, many people do have latex allergies. And that does come into play with latex clothing.
Quick question on the allergy aspect. Are there alternatives for anybody who might have a latex allergy but says, "Ooh, it's pretty, it's shiny, and I love like how it hugs things and hugs the body. I want to get into it, but I don't want to deal with the allergy aspect of an EpiPen by putting it on."
Yes. In my opinion, unfortunately, there are no great alternatives.
Oh,
I'd say the closest thing would probably be PVC or vinyl clothing. You get that high shine, that high gloss, that smooth texture. It also has a lot of other benefits to it for people who may not like the maybe lubing up or powdering up to slick into a really tight garment. It's got a fabric backing, so it's nice and smooth. You don't sweat as much, but it's not going to have the same kind of like body hugging, cocoon-like feeling of some of the tighter latex garments. But you'll at least get that high gloss look out of PVC garments.
So I'm going to guess that cocooning feeling you just mentioned is part of why it appeals to you.
Yes. It is one of many reasons why latex appeals to me. I'm a sensory seeker. I feel like, I'm on the spectrum and I have sort of sensory processing things, and tight clothing is one thing that really does something for me. So if I'm wearing like a latex catsuit, I get this full body hug all over. And it's just like, it's relaxing. It's calming. And it warms up to your body temperature. And it's just, you've got this full body hug going on. But that's only one of the appeals of it to me. It is a feast for the senses, which is why, it appeals so much to me as a sensory seeker. You've got the visual with the gloss, the second skin look sometimes. Not all latex is second skin. There's plenty of flowy items out there. It's got the feel, the texture. It is super smooth. And so I can find myself just rubbing my hands all over my body because I love the feeling of that smoothness. It's got an aroma. Some people like it. Some people don't like the aroma. It can be pretty strong. I've developed a mental connection with the smell of the rubber and all the experiences I've had in it. Latex makes, sounds, as you move your hands over, as you're putting it on. I don't know if you can hear that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, you can totally hear that.
Okay. I can't hear it because of my headset, but just that sound, I have associations with that. And then, of course, you've got the visual of me seeing other people in latex, and that is very appealing and arousing. And so latex just touches all the sensations. And those are a lot of things of why I love it. One other reason why I love it is it has sort of transformative abilities. I can wear a full outfit. I can cover my head. I can show no skin. And I can just become a new person, an object, a new creature, or I could put on a persona. And I can leave, my boring life, day-to-day life, and create a whole new persona and just leave my cares behind for a bit. So those are all the ways that it appeals to me.
So I have never worn any latex other than a latex glove, and I'm going to assume that's a different type of sensation.
A little bit, not too far off, honestly. And that's what got me started in the beginning as a kid. But so latex gloves are pretty similar. I mean, it's the same material. Latex exam gloves are a little thinner than the material that's made for latex clothing. And so it's not as durable, but it's generally got the same sensation. So if you wear a really tight latex exam glove, that will generally give you a taste of the sensation. But the latex that's used to make clothing is definitely thicker. Generally, it's made of sheeting that's anywhere between 1/4 millimeter thick to 1 millimeter or even 1 millimeter more for really heavy stuff. On average, it's about 0.3 to 0.4 millimeters. And it gives a nice firm hug for a tight-fitting garment. It also provides some more restrictions. So if you wear heavy latex garments, some people like what's called heavy rubber. That's about generally 0.8 to a millimeter thickness sheeting. Like I said, sometimes more. And that gives you really heavy constriction and restriction and resistance to your movements. And a lot of people really like that. Definitely more cocooning and more constraining. But if you just imagine that glove just all over your whole body and hugging your whole body, that's what it's like if you're wearing maybe a dress or, a shirt and pants or leggings or even a cat suit, fully covers your body. So it is kind of like that. A lot of people will say like, oh, when you're wearing this, does it get hot? Do you get sweaty? Is it uncomfortable? And I'll say, it depends. Like everything, it depends. The unfortunate thing about latex is it is a solid sheet, and so you will sweat in it, and that sweat cannot evaporate. So if you're in a warm environment, you are going to get warm, you are going to get hot, you're going to get sweaty, and because that sweat can't evaporate, it is going to accumulate and trickle down your arms and legs and give you all sorts of fun, goopy sensations that you may or may not appreciate. But generally, I say, so latex actually transmits heat pretty well. So for like the average thickness, we're not talking about like super heavy stuff. It's almost like you're not wearing anything. If you're out in the heat or if your air conditioner is broken, you're going to get warm. If you're in a cold environment, if you're out in the snow or your air conditioner's cranked down low, you're going to be cold because it provides no insulation at all. So the comfort level and that sort of sensation depends on your environment and on the garment. Like right now, I'm wearing full pants and a tank top. And with my arms being free, my body can regulate its temperature pretty well. And I'm kind of doing hand motions here as I'm talking, even though you can't see it. If I were to be doing this wearing a full catsuit with my arms covered, I would be building up more heat and getting more uncomfortable, even though my air conditioner's running. That is one thing to consider when, picking out garments, especially for like a first-time wearer. I always say, pick out something small, like a pair of shorts, or maybe a t-shirt or a tank top, or maybe a pair of underwear even. Because you may not like the sensations, or it may be different than you expected it to be. And since latex is such an expensive kink to get into, these garments are very expensive comparatively to traditional clothing items. You don't want to spend a bunch of money like on a catsuit as your very first thing, spend like $200-$300 or more, and then not like it. Right? Or find you're allergic to it.
How did you get started in discovering latex?
It's quite the story. This is the story I tell myself. I'm not sure how 100% accurate it is. I feel like I got started as a kid. I went through a phase, probably, 8 to 10 years old, where I liked to play doctor. So going back to where we were talking about, those latex exam gloves, I liked to wear latex exam gloves and play doctor as a kid. And I just, I really liked that sensation of the gloves, and that was part of the play. And of course, it was not sexual. It was not kinky. It was just play as a kid. But I just liked the sensation of feeling the latex gloves. And at one point, I don't know how old I was, like I said, 8 to 10, I just had a thought. Wouldn't it be cool if I could cover my whole body in this stuff? Totally innocent. I'm a kid, know nothing about kink or sex, none of that. And I just had that thought. And I grew out of that phase. I forgot about the doctor play. I forgot about the latex exam gloves, and I was growing older. But about middle school time, that thought came back. Something triggered it. I don't know what it was. Something brought that thought back from the back of my mind about having this rubbery stuff all over my body because I just wanted to feel that. And this was the time when we were starting to get home internet and dial-up. And little innocent me in middle school hopped on whatever search engine was popular at the time. Google wasn't around. And I searched for just like generic latex clothing. I didn't think it was going to be a thing, but I found something. There were some early online latex shops. Don't remember any of the names of them, but I stumbled upon some. And I was immediately hooked. I had to have this. This exists. This is cool. These people in these, very early photos of in these shops trying to sell some basic latex clothing. That's exactly what I wanted. I wanted that to be me. And they weren't even like super sexual, kinky like some of the latex shops are these days in their advertising. They were very basic. And so from that point on, I was hooked. And like I started doing a lot more research. I frequented these sites, and of course, as a kid, these things are a bit sexual. So there were, I kind of fell down a bit of a rabbit hole into some things I shouldn't have gotten into as a high schooler. These images of these garments being advertised on these latex shops, that kind of became my porn in a way, even though it wasn't overtly sexual. But I became obsessed, and I wanted to know what it felt like to wear this stuff. So all through high school, that became my obsession. And finally, in college, I had moved out. I have my own mailbox now. I have a credit card now. I can buy something. And so I bought my first latex garment in the fall of 2007 as a freshman in college.
Ooh, cool.
And I don't remember what it was. It may have been just a pair of molded shorts or like a really, really cheap hood or a pair of gloves. I don't remember what it was, but those are what I'm remembering as my first items. So that's a long story, but that's really how I got into it.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Is it safe to assume if you can think of a type of apparel, it's also made in latex?
Pretty much. You can find any sort of traditional garment, shirts, like all types of shirts, t-shirts, tank tops, button downs. You can find pants, whether they're leggings or jeans. Like I'm wearing a pair of just standard blue jeans, but they're made of latex. That's what I'm wearing right now. You can find dresses. You can find blazers. You can find hoodies. Anything you can imagine, you can find it in latex. And if it doesn't exist, you can obviously go find a designer and say, hey, I want to make this. Can you make it for me? And you can get purely custom designs. I've done that once. It's pretty fun. So yeah, if you can think of anything, it's probably made in latex.
Speaking of making this type of apparel, it's not like sewn together or anything. Like it's manufactured as one piece. Am I understanding that correctly?
So it's not sewn like a traditional garment because, poking holes with a needle puts points of failure into the garment. So the most latex garments are made from sheeting. So they're cut with a pattern out of latex sheeting instead of like cotton or whatever. And then they're glued together in the seams instead of sewn, which makes it a very laborious process. Everything is all handmade, which adds to the cost, is part of why it's so expensive. The material, the sheeting itself is expensive, and then it's all manually assembled. There are cheaper garments that are more accessible for an entry point for getting into this. They're made through a molding process where there's a mold that's made and it's dipped into liquid latex, and then the latex dries on the mold and you peel it off. So you can find things like cheap hoods, gloves are made that way, socks. You can find shorts and some stockings, maybe some cheap shirts. They're quite a bit less expensive, but the problem is they are less durable, less robust. The latex doesn't dry quite so evenly. There's more imperfections in the sheeting. And so the garment's not going to last as long. But it is a better, easier, more accessible way to get into this. Try it out, see if you like it.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. You said there are cheaper garments. Having never looked into this myself, what is cheaper, what is expensive? I know wide range.
Oh,
but,
wide
ballpark.
range. You can spend as much as you could fathom if you wanted. Cheap would probably be like cheap would be like $40 to $50 for a shirt. That's cheap. If you want an average one, you're probably going to spend about $100 for a shirt. If you want a nice one, probably $200 to $300 for a shirt. Pants are probably going to be about $150 to $200 for a decent pair of pants. If you want like a cheap pair of undies, you're looking at maybe $20, $25 for a cheap pair of underwear, or $20 to $30 for a cheap to moderate pair of gloves. You're not going to find tailored gloves. Those are mostly all molded just because of the nature of how complex fingers are. I have seen tailored being, cut from the sheeting and glued. Yeah. I have seen tailored gloves, but only from like one, maybe two manufacturers. I wish more did it because I have narrow hands with long fingers and most gloves do not fit me well. But yes, you can spend as much as you want. I recently bought a very nice dress as a sort of a celebration for a recent milestone I'd had. And I paid a little over $1,000 for a dress.
Ooh, was that the pretty purple one?
That was the pretty purple one.
Oh, that one was gorgeous.
It was gorgeous.
That is gorgeous.
I had been eyeing that dress for a few years, and That is my most expensive single item that I own now.
Nice. As a new person, like potentially getting into latex and wearing it, is there a specific thickness that you would recommend?
Yeah.
When you're looking, even if you're purchasing from, a vendor or website, and they're like, oh my gosh, here's the range of thickness, and you're like, shit, which one do I pick?
Yeah. Usually they'll have a default on the site, like so a lot of them will give you some options. Obviously, you can pick your size of whatever, but then they'll let you pick your color of the sheeting and the thickness. Usually the default is like 0.35 to 0.4 millimeters. So you don't really have to think about that. So that's just pretty average. That's almost everything that I own. And you get it's a nice balance trade-off between, durability and comfort.
Okay.
So you can go down to like 0.25, a quarter mil, and that's really thin. And the benefits of that, it's really stretchy and really comfortable. You're not going to get any like pinch points or anything. I have a few things that are quarter mil, and they're really nice. And you get them, they're very comfortable for long-term wear. The downside is being thinner, more likely to tear, more likely to puncture. So you get that trade-off. And of course, heavier stuff is going to be more durable, but it's going to be less comfortable. You're going to have more pinching in the joints. It's going to be more exhausting to wear as you move around because you're going to have more resistance to your movements. And generally, places will charge you more for either the thicker or the thinner sheeting. So if you stick with the default, you get a nice balance overall.
So you've given these numbers on thickness, which mean absolutely nothing to me. What's the vanilla equivalent of those thicknesses? What would that be used for in a vanilla set?
Well, that's a good question because traditional clothes, you don't have a choice of thicknesses of, material to be made from, right? So like say a quarter mil be wearing like a nice thin silky item, right?
Okay.
And the middle of the ground, the 0.35 to 0.4 mil is maybe like a denim, sort of. It's a little thicker, but like the latex is more pliable than denim would be, so it's not quite as restrictive as you'd think denim would be. And then your 1 mil, your heavy rubber stuff, think of that more like maybe a leather, like a real leather, not a fake leather, nice and heavy. And it would be just as strong and restrictive as leather would be. Because heavy rubber it stretches, but it takes a lot more effort.
Gotcha.
So once you get your rubber or your latex, and you look at it and it's all nice and pretty, how the heck do you get into it?
Yes. So there are a few ways, and it also depends on the type of garment. So if you got something like a button-down shirt, well, heck, you don't need to do anything special. You open it up, slide it on, button it up, you're good to go. You don't have to do anything special. Generally, you've got to do more work for really tight-fitting garments. And so there's a few ways that people typically do. One way that, you probably think of, it's pretty standard, is using talcum powder. So you powder up the inside, then you can slide it on because that reduces the friction of the latex. I personally do not like using talcum powder. It's easy, but once you got it on and you start sweating, all the sweat mixes with that talcum powder and it starts dripping down. You have this white goop coming out everywhere. And it's messy. It's like, no. There's also one other big downside. For those with natal female genitalia, talcum powder can get up into your reproductive organs and cause cancer and other things.
Ooh.
So for cis women, it's probably not the best, or I guess trans men as well. So I would avoid talcum powder. Most garments, when you buy them, they will come shipped, likely powdered already, just to keep the latex from sticking to itself, because latex is very sticky when it's clean. So most places will powder it up before shipping it to you, which gives you a nice, quick way to get it on. Say, yay, fresh latex, I'm excited to put it on. So you can slip it on real quick, do a test fitting. But I personally would not use talcum powder for long-term as a dressing aid, is what they're called. So Another route is to use silicone oil-based dressing aids. There are lots of them out there under various brand names. It's like, you got Vivishine. I think Bagloss makes a dressing aid. There's, I don't know, Pure Coat makes just a polisher or a dressing aid. And there's several of them out there. They're all silicone based. And so you can turn your garment inside out, drizzle oil all over it, smear it around, make sure it's all nice and evenly coated. Then turn it right side out. For certain garments, I'll even oil myself up on my shoulders or my butt and thighs, just the sticky points that really are a little tough to get it over. And then you slide it on and just feel it, just all goopy sliding all over your body as you pull it up and on. Obviously shirts you can pull over your head. Cat suits you generally, go feet first and you pull it up all the way up. Sometimes items have zippers to make it easier. Sometimes they don't. But silicone oil is pretty much the standard of dressing aid for tight garments. There is also a chemical process you can do to process the latex and make it not so high friction. It's called chlorination. You can give the latex a bath in an aqueous chlorine solution, which binds chlorine molecules to the surface of the latex. And that really smooths it out. It makes the latex silky, silky smooth. So you can just slip it right on, no problem, with no dressing aids. That's got some trade-offs. One, obviously, the positive thing is it's no dressing aid. Easy wearing, right? But it dulls the shine a little bit. So your latex garment won't be quite as shiny. And if you ever have a tear that needs to be repaired, it makes the repair more difficult. And so the patch might not stick quite as readily. It also dulls the smell in case you're really into the smell. But yeah, I was into chlorination Kink for a while. I chlorinated a lot of my collection early on just to make it easier. But since then, I'm like, you know what? I really like the shine. And I'm kind of annoyed that this stuff doesn't shine up quite as nicely as it did before. Like I have a neck entry cat suit where literally you crawl in through the neck hole, put your feet in, shimmy the neck hole all the way up over your butt and over your shoulders. It takes a lot of work to get into. I mean, it could take me, about 5-10 minutes with non-chlorinated, turn it inside out, slather it with lube, slather my body with lube. And it takes a lot of physical effort to shimmy it up. I have another cat suit that's also neck entry that I chlorinated, and I can slip into that in 2 minutes, maybe tops. Wow. Just my arms and legs just go right in, slips right in.
Yeah.
I found one downside though is once I start sweating, that the latex will cling to the body once you get the sweat layer in there, and it will cause some pinch points because it doesn't slide on the skin as easily while you're moving around. So it does irritate the skin a little bit just from that friction, which is another reason to have that silicone oil lube layer. So I recommend using silicone oil as your dressing aid if you need it.
Like right now, it just sounds like the benefits of having the silicone oil seems to outweigh just not. I mean, unless you're just not sure if you're, going to be okay with silicone or whatever, than the chlorinated route, but just, it seems like a better experience overall.
Yes,
is how it's coming across.
Yes. However, there are some downsides to the silicone oil that you may not think of.
Sure. It
gets all over everything. I have little silicone oil prints all over my apartment now. I had a guest over this weekend and we had some fun here. And we both were like full dolled up, full latex head to toe. But like I got silicone marks all over my piano, all over my dinner table, all over the floor. It just gets on everything. Oops. And then, of course, when you're taking this off and washing your garments, like I sometimes will take it off in the shower. Mm-hmm. And of course, I need to wash the oil off my body too. Well, then the oil coats the floor of the shower and makes the floor of the shower really slippery. So I got to be careful not to fall in the shower. Or, wherever maybe when you're getting dressed and you're, drizzling and spreading the oil all over your garment, you got to make sure, if you get any on the floor, you better clean that up. Otherwise, that is a severe, slip and fall hazard.
Yeah, let's not turn the bathtub into a slip and slide.
Yeah. Or if you get it on upholstery, if you get like more than just a tiny little bit on upholstery, it's going to leave stain marks. It's going to look like your upholstery is like permanently wet in that spot. Luckily, I've never really had a deep clean upholstery, but I have kind of like, I left a little mark on the couch there. Just got to be aware.
So that was going to be my next question. Once you take it off, I assume you can't just throw it in the washing machine. How do you wash it? How do you take care of it? Does it need oil or maintained like leather does?
Yes and yes and yes. So there are a handful of ways to wash it. Actually, I used to use a washer. If I had a lot of latex to wash, I would use my washer. However, there are several caveats to that. I would only use a front-loading washer with no agitator, because an agitator would grab stuff, tear it up. So front-loading washer, very mild detergent. I would use the gentle cycle, no spin, absolutely no spin, because since the water cannot move through the garment like traditional weaved fabrics, a spin could catch latex in a fold or in a pocket, and it will blow out the seams and rip up your garment just through the centrifugal force of the water wanting to spread out. So no spin. And so I did that for a while. I don't have a front load washer anymore. So what I do is if it's just like whatever I wore for that day, I will hop in the shower while wearing it. And I'll let the water run down my body between my skin and the garment, which feels really good, by the way. You ever wanted to feel like tentacles going down your body? Wear some tight latex and let water run down it.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
I'm picturing water running down the inside of
Yes.
it, and it being a catsuit and blowing up like Violet and Willy Wonka.
It can.
Oh,
Like,
jeez.
yeah, because if the latex is stuck to your skin, sometimes it will like pool down, like in your belly at the bottom, because it's like stuck so tight to your legs. And eventually the pressure will build up and push through that. And then that feels like that whole rush of water going down your legs. Great sensation there. But that water running down one helps to separate the latex from your skin. It makes it easy to disrobe while you're in the shower. But then you're already there in a warm, wet environment, so you can just wash it in the shower right there. So that's what I'll do. Just make sure you get the sweat off. I don't even sometimes use soap when I'm in the shower. I just want to make sure I get the sweat and salt, off of the garment. If I have more, if I've been lazy and haven't done that, and I've collected some, like a large amount of latex to wash, like I did this weekend, because I got my vac bed. So I had my vac bed I needed to wash. I will run the tub, fill the tub up with warm water, put large amounts of Dawn dish soap in there, and I'll just agitate it with my hands in the bathtub with warm soapy water. Make sure you do both inside and outside, turn it inside out halfway through, rinse it off with fresh water to get the soap off, and then hang dry it. You have to hang dry it for several hours or overnight. You have to turn it inside out because the inside won't dry. Once you turn it inside out, let that dry, and then you're ready to store it. Before you store it, you will need to put probably a coating of oil on it. Like I said earlier, clean latex will adhere to itself and will bond, and you don't want that to happen. And so you'll want to put oil on it, and storing it with the oil on it also will help it from drying out, because latex will dry out. It has natural moisture in it. And when it dries out, it'll get stiff and cracky, and it will be brittle and break. So if you want to keep your latex nice and supple, you'll store it with just a real thin coating of oil. And then you can store it either in plastic bags or nylon garment bags. Some of my stuff I just hang up in the closet even. But storing it in a cool, dark place, away from sunlight, away from metals, because metal will stain latex, so you don't want any like jewelry to touch it or any other. Sometimes even like latex items will have like nickel or stainless steel grommets and rings and whatever. Mm-hmm. You can't really take those off sometimes, but those will stain the latex. So if you've got like dark colors, you're fine, but lighter colors will get stained.
So you make sure you put it on a plastic hanger, not a metal one.
Yes, yeah. I use plastic hangers. Good point to make. Yes, do not put on a metal hanger. Store different colors separate, because light colors will leach dark colors onto them. The latex is the most high maintenance material like ever. Storage is like very important. Obviously you want a cool place because heat will dry it out. Sunlight will bleach it. And those are the main things. It's definitely keeping colors separate and the metals. Mm-hmm. But also speaking of metals and care, when you're putting this stuff on, the really tight garments can be a little tricky. And you might be tempted to just grab a fistful of it and pull it up real hard. And if you do that and you have sharp fingernails, you're likely just going to put a hole right through it with your fingernails. So one thing to keep in mind when putting it on is to make sure you're not wearing any sharp jewelry, fingernails are trimmed, etc.
How big a risk is it that your latex is going to blow out or rip or tear?
Well, I've been surprised. Once you get it on, so latex is very durable. So it has a very, very high, I believe, tensile strength. So it can be pulled and stretched like 300 to 400% its original size. Very strong. But as soon as it gets the tiniest little imperfection, the tiniest little nick in there, it's done. Catastrophic failure. It's a very, very low shear strength. And so I've had items that, like, I literally tore an item that I was putting it on for the first time. It was one of my earlier items. And I just pulled it up a little too hard, put a little pressure because I was a little too eager. And it just rips whole straight through. Like, well, there went that. Didn't even wear it one time. But most latex is pretty durable as long as you're gentle. Like, I'm always afraid, maybe if I'm wearing a catsuit and I'm bending over really far, which puts a lot of tension on my butt area. I'm always afraid I'm going to blow out that butt seam. Hasn't happened yet. A lot of the higher end places will put extra reinforcements on like your butt seam, underarms, places where there's really high tension. So you don't have to worry about it quite as much. But just be careful. Like, I try not to, like, if I have something with long sleeves, I won't reach up above my head as far as I possibly can, because that puts a ton of tension on the underarm. I once ripped a catsuit, zipping it up. It had a front zipper from just above the crotch to the neck, and I was just pulling up the zipper. Well, I was pulling the sides together to get the zipper, close together so I could pull up the whatever it's called, the slider. And as I was pulling it together, it just ripped straight up the whole side of the zipper, just because I was a little hard with it, maybe a little fast. So you just have to be gentle and careful. Make sure you're wearing garments or buying garments that are sized for you appropriately. Not borrowing something from someone that's way too small and ripping something that's someone else's. The thinner the latex, like I said earlier, the thinner it is, the more easy it is to rip. There's less, it's got less strength. But so far, I've not had any, other than those two things, I've not had any other major catastrophic failures in my however many years I've been wearing it, like 18 years now. I've had a few pinholes that have happened. Like in an underarm, I reached up and got a little pinhole tear. It didn't catastrophically fail. Got a little pinhole and I caught it. I was able to patch it before it rips much further than a pinhole. But yeah, it's always a risk. It also depends on the quality, quality of the sheeting. I would definitely put less stock in a molded item versus a tailored item. Just because like I said, the molding latex has much more imperfections in it. But just be careful.
You mentioned getting a pinhole and then, being able to catch it and such like that. So you can, if it's not a catastrophic failure, you can repair your latex?
Yeah. Even if it is a catastrophic failure, you can repair it. It's just a lot more difficult to do. I've never repaired a catastrophic failure. The one I mentioned with the zipper, I had someone else repair it. I sent it out and had someone else repair it. And that was even a chlorinated catsuit. And the person told me they had trouble because it was chlorinated, but they were able to patch it. And that was like a maybe 2.5 foot long tear that they patched for me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because that was my very first catsuit. It was custom made. And then for those, I guess I should say, for those who don't know, a catsuit is not literally a cat. You don't look like a cat wearing a catsuit. It's just a one-piece garment that's, a top and bottom, from your ankles to your wrists and up to your neck. One-piece garment. But no. I mean, you can. You can get little kitty ears if you want. That's not really what it means. But yes, you can, I've done those simple repairs myself. I wanted to get into latex crafting. I've never had the time. I had 2 kids, and I just could not get into it. So I learned enough to be able to do small patches. So I've done a handful of small patches on a few of my things. They got little tiny tears. It's a pretty easy process, but it can also be frustrating. The latex is finicky. It likes to curl up with the glue, and I don't see that as maybe a new person skill. I think that's probably a 201 class is latex repairs and crafting, but you can do it. And so I've even heard some people take a bicycle tire patch kit, and you can use that as a quick repair if you want. So just take a little, an inner tube patch kit, and you can put that on the inside of the garment so you don't see it. And that's a quick and easy way that someone can do on their own without too much trouble.
said something about the colors running or fading or whatever. How is the color put into it? Is it manufactured into it? Is it dyed? Is it painted on? How does that work?
It is dyed into the sheeting. So the latex is, like I said, it's the natural sap of the rubber tree. And by default, without any tint added to it, it's kind of like a milky yellow color. A lot of people like it. I think it's kind of bland. But latex is a liquid to start. And so while it's still a liquid, they can mix in various dyes and sometimes other little things like glitter or whatever to create, the sheeting. And there are also manufacturers that will make pattern sheeting, so they can take multiple colors of latex and swirl them together to make very cool, interesting patterns. But yeah, it's added in when latex is still a liquid. It's poured out into a sheet and let to dry, and then it dries into the solid form or semi-solid form that we think of when we think of latex. And there's so many kinds. Like you have all your standard colors typically that you can choose from. Like most shops, when you go online, you got your blacks and your reds, like all colors of the rainbow. But you can also get like metallic colors. So if you want a little bit of a metallic sheen to it, you've got those. And like I said, some will offer semi-transparent colors. So if you remember that purple dress that I had, the purple part was actually semi-transparent, so you could see my legs through the bottom part of the dress. You could probably even see the contours of my breasts. So you can get semi-transparent ones. You can, obviously there's those specialty sheetings that have the patterns and such. There's all sorts of kinds of sheeting. Most places don't offer the specialty pattern sheetings. You got to go to the designers that use those, but like the larger shops typically will have all the standard colors of the rainbow, plus semi-transparent, plus metallics.
Gotcha.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
You described the rather laborious process it takes to put it on. Is that part of the fun, or is that a chore?
Depends on my mood. It can be fun. Because, well, one, it's just, the feeling of sliding it on never gets old. Just feeling that smooth texture sliding up my legs or down my arms. The feeling of slowly being encased in a hug if it's a tight garment. But sometimes it can just be a chore. I think, though, I've gotten it down to where I know what I'm doing and I can kind of do it mindlessly. And it doesn't take a lot of work for me anymore. I know exactly what I need to do. I know exactly what order to put things on. And so the donning process isn't a chore anymore. The guest I had over this past weekend is a little newer to it. And it took her like 15 minutes to get into her catsuit, where it took me, 3 or 4. She was struggling a little bit and I had to help her a little bit. So I think it depends on your skill level. I think it depends on what you're looking for. Depends on your mindset. Like, you can make it part of the experience, just getting dressed, like getting into that mindset, relaxing and just paying attention to those sensations as you're putting the garment on, and not even worrying about how long it's taking you to do it. So I think it could be either or both, depending on your mindset and skill level and type of item.
So for somebody who hears this and says, yes, I want to explore this, where would you recommend them going to buy their latex?
Yeah, I get that question so much. So I always suggest, there's always one shop that I suggest to almost everyone, and that's Libidex, Libidex.com. They are a British shop. The reason why I recommend them is because they have the widest selection of any place that I have ever seen. They have everything, and they have very interesting designs, and they have very simple designs. So whatever you're looking for, if you just want shorts or a shirt, or you want a dress, or you want a sports hoodie, or you want, a cocktail dress, or you want, tailored pants and a blazer, they have just about everything that you can think of. Their quality is pretty decent. Prices are about average. And so I say they're a good start, just so you can have a huge catalog to peruse all in one place. But there are so many shops out there, so many, designers that make wonderful, wonderful things. And it's impossible for me to keep all of those in mind. So one place I've started pointing people to is a website called wearlatex.com, where they have a vendor directory of hundreds and hundreds of vendors and shops that you can go look at. Because one tricky thing is that different shops will sell different kinds of things depending on what they like to specialize in. And so, like, when someone asks, well, where do I go buy this stuff? I'm like, well, what do you want? Some places are really good making cat suits. Some places are really good making hoods. Some places make some pretty beautiful lingerie. So it really depends on what you want. So that's one. If you want more higher end pieces, I will suggest maybe Simon O, which I believe they're based in Austria. There are a few places in the US. I don't know them quite as well. I know Latex Nemesis I think she recently moved to New York. She is very well known. I know it's not she because she's not. So Nimi, I believe, owns the business, but she's not the only one that creates the hoods. But they're known for making hoods. Yeah. And I have several hoods from Latex Nemesis, and I love them all. They are very well made. But there are other places that also make hoods that are very well made. So I'd say look around, shop around, but there are also so many designers that are only on Etsy maybe or only on Instagram and maybe don't have a formal website, but they still make beautiful stuff. Like I said, there's so many out there, I can't keep them all, I can't name them. But this wearlatex.com has a very good catalog of shops to go peruse. I guess one other name I will drop for people just trying to get into it. I know when I was getting into it, I went to a store called twistmyrubberarm.com.
Okay.
The website's not fantastic, but they do have a lot of lower end items, a lot of less expensive items for someone trying to get started. I believe they're based in Canada, so shipping might be a little cheaper than buying from Europe for those based in the US. But that's where I got started, was twistmyrubberarm.com for cheaper stuff. There are also some Chinese sites that kind of do knockoffs and such. I don't know if I want to promote buying knockoffs, but I do have a few items from some Chinese shops that are okay. Quality's not the best, but not bad for the money.
Might be a good one to experiment with.
Yeah.
To see if you want to invest in the more expensive.
Exactly. So there's one called Latex Catfish, and that's a Chinese company. I have a few items from them. Like I said, they haven't been horrible, but they're not amazing. Good for the money, I'd say, ish. But again, they do carry some knockoffs that I don't care for. They'll try to recreate, other designers. But they do have a lot of their own designs as well. And I believe there was some split with Latex Catfish and their U.S. counterpart, and that's been years, and I haven't bought from them since then, so I don't know the current setup with their U.S. partnership company. But yeah, there are other sites out there. I'm sure Latex Catfish and other sites like that are listed probably on that wearlatex.com's vendor list. Although I probably should verify that before I make such a claim.
Earlier you mentioned the vac bed.
Yes.
Is that an extension of the latex kink, or is that something separate, or some overlap?
Yeah, it's somewhere there in the Venn diagram. I'd say, so a vac bed, for those who don't know, if you imagine like a sleeping bag that's made of latex instead of a nice cozy fabric that has maybe a plastic frame inside of it. You get in, you're sealed up, and all the air is sucked out of it so that you are trapped in between layers of latex. That's what a vac bed is. There are other vacuum devices. There are cubes. So you imagine a cube of latex that you climb inside and the air is sucked out. And then there's towers where you are standing up in a tower. Typically your head is out the top. And then the air is sucked out and latex comes and binds you in. So I see it as a form of bondage. I mean, it's a pretty intense form of bondage, actually. Because you can't do anything except for maybe flex and squirm against it. You cannot change positions while you're in there. With one caveat, unless you put gobs and gobs of lube inside there while you're in there, then you can kind of slide around. But without that, you are stuck. And so I see it as a form of bondage because you're there, you are at the whim of your top, and you must have a top because number one rule with playing in vac beds is you do not play in a vac bed alone. You just don't do it. People have done it, And there are very dire consequences for doing that, potentially, including up to death. And I know someone personally who did die in a vac bed because he played alone.
Oh,
Yes, so do not do it. So, but I see a vac bed not just as a bondage implement. I see it as another form of sensory play. I have used it in ways where I've gotten in, my top has sealed me in, done the vacuum. But it's not meant for sexual play or kinky play. It's more for relaxation and meditation. So you can get in there and just feeling your whole body just squeezed with the latex. It just, I don't know, whatever it does, it just calms the nerves and just like huge sigh of relief, just relaxation washing over you. And you can just like meditate in there and relax. You've got sensory deprivation. Mine, your head is inside, so your eyes are covered, your hearing is muffled, and you're just in there with your thoughts in the quiet. And I've been in there up to like an hour or more, just relaxing, being with my thoughts. And after a while, it almost feels like, you can leave your body and have an out-of-body experience almost. I've heard people say it could be almost like one of those salt float tanks. I've never been in one of those, but I'm like, yeah, it could kind of be like that, because you almost lose connection with your body, because you have like, if you don't have a top that's actually actively like touching you or anything, like you're just there marinating, you lose the sensation of like touch and like where your body is. Your proprioception is all thrown off. It's a very interesting feeling. So that's one way of playing with it. But another way is obviously, kinky play. So you got your top that, who can, obviously you're at their whim. You can't do anything. So they can, do temperature play with ice cubes or something, or do a little tickle torture. And you can't squirm away from it because you can't clench up with your, you can't bring your arms down to your side, or you can't clench your thighs together because you're stuck. Mm-hmm. Or, you can even add impact play on top of it. Just don't do anything sharp, right? Because anything sharp will likely tear the latex. Sure. But any impact play with blunt instruments like paddles or your hand or whatever, you could totally do while in a vac bed. You could even do a little breath play. So some vac beds have it where are configured so your head can be in and you just have like a little breathing tube for your mouth. Mm-hmm. Or your head can be out in you have a neck gasket where your head is out, so your face is open. A lot of people like that because they're claustrophobic or whatever. But even then, you can still wear a gas mask or something. You can do breath play. I've not done much of that as a bottom. I did a little bit as a top. I'm not very experienced in breath play, so I don't want to push that too much, like in my own play. But that's something you can do. And so, yeah, it's an overlap. It's obviously you've got the latex part for the latex kink, but it's also very much heavy on the side of bondage as well. So it's definitely an overlap there.
Very cool. Okay, this sounds like amazing and like a lot of fun.
Oh, it's so much fun. I was in the vac bed just on Saturday for about 40 minutes or so. It was very fun.
For somebody who is interested in trying on latex as apparel, but they're having some hesitation because they're plus size.
Yes.
How would you address that concern?
Yes, I've had several people make that remark to me, and I find it unfortunate. I feel like if you're interested in something like this, you should just go for it, try it out. It's all about how it feels for you, all about the experience. And I understand being, self-conscious about your body image, like I am myself. But latex can be a forgiving material. Latex has a lot of stretch. And so I would not make your hesitation be about can I even fit into it? Because obviously you're going to buy something that's made for you, that's going to be your right size. If you don't fit an off the rack size, a lot of places will do made to measure. You give them your measurements and they will make it to you. So I wouldn't make that your hesitation. I understand the mental aspect of am I going to look bad in this? I don't like this part of my body or that part of my body. But it's so much more than just looks, because there's all the whole sensory experience and the play and the fun that's not related to how you look in it. That's so enjoyable. And I really say, do this for you. Please do not worry about how other people think you look in latex. Yes, there are lots of very beautiful models out there, But we're not trying to be them. We're trying to have our own experience, our own fun, our own enjoyment. And like I said, I would not use size as a reason to say, no, I'm not going to try this. I have seen a photo of a very pregnant woman wearing a neck entry catsuit, which means she got the neck hole of this suit up and over her very beautiful belly. If that's any reason to say no because of size, I mean, like, I don't know. Like, so I would say just try it. Please don't be self-conscious. I know I've run into so many people who are and have like, I see the look on their face like, I really want to try this, but I don't, think I'll look good in it. And I really want to hug them. Because there's so much more to this than just looks. It's such a bigger experience than that.
I was going to say, I run into more people who enjoy wearing latex who say something similar that what you do as to, no, it really doesn't matter your size. We just want you in the latex to enjoy it as much as what we do.
Yes.
We want you to try it. We want, try it on, enjoy it. Like it's one of those that, it may not be for everybody, but it is for everybody.
Yes, exactly.
Including including my sash person, my sash husband from years ago was just like, no, honey, we want everybody. It's how we take over the world. We want everybody in latex.
Yes, and I feel like latex is a pretty niche kink. I think, even though it's starting to become more mainstream, as celebrities and whatever start wearing it. I still think as a kink, though, it's still fairly niche. And being from the Midwest, like you and I are, like there aren't terribly many around here. So I'm always doing my best to make converts. I want to see more people wearing it and more people enjoying it and having fun, no matter who you are. We need more shiny people.
Other than the allergies you mentioned, are there any other risks from wearing latex? Wearing it too long or cutting off circulation or anything like that?
Yes, actually. That's a very good question. So one thing to be aware of is yes, wearing it for quite some time, you build up heat, you build up sweat. Bacteria really like moist, warm environments. So if you have any minor cuts in anything and you've been wearing latex for a full day or more, you could be at risk for maybe a little bacterial infection or such. Speaking of that, going back to dressing aids, I failed to mention this, but some people will think, well, I don't have talcum powder. Could I use cornstarch? To which I will say absolutely no, because that is food. And food in a warm, moist environment, you're asking for a bacterial infection then. Or I don't have silicone oil, but I have baby oil, or I have maybe some kitchen vegetable oil, to which I say no, because the vegetable oil will destroy your latex. It will literally break down the latex and turn it into goop, and as will the baby oil. So don't use those. Also, I have found if you're wearing something that's tugging on you, maybe I have a pair of pants that I'm wearing, and the waistband, or pulled it up high so it's wanting to pull down, but it's stuck to my skin because of sweat or whatever. As you're moving around, that is really, literally tugging on and off of your skin all day as you're walking around. And I have given myself blisters because of that. It literally detaches the top layer of skin from moving around all day with it, the latex literally bound to the skin because I didn't wear lube or putting oil on there or anything, right? That can't happen. Now that I know that it can't happen, I make sure to put a little dressing aid under the waistband of pants or whatever. You can get little pinch in bruising from pinching in joints, in your elbows or behind the knees or under the armpit, because the latex will, ripple on those joints, and as you extend and retract those joints, it will pinch the little ripples of your skin. So you can get I'll take it off and I'll have a little bit of bruising. It might be slightly sore, but it's not so bad. That's just all part of the gig. Dehydration is a risk. So if you're wearing it long term in a warm environment, you will sweat a lot. So you need to make sure you're continually taking in water because you could dehydrate. Other than that, I'm not thinking of any other immediate risks. You do want to not wear it for like ever and ever. Your skin needs to dry out. It needs to breathe a little bit. Obviously, the whole breathing through your skin, is a myth. Like, you can keep the latex on. Your skin doesn't need the oxygen. Like, you don't respire through your skin, right? But I've noticed, like, when I wear latex for a long time, my skin will get very soft. It will slough off. I will lose a lot of skin after wearing latex for maybe more than 24 hours. And so you do need to give your skin a break. I know a lot of people talk about 24/7 latex fantasies, just living in rubber. It's a nice fantasy, but it's not practical in reality. It's a pretty low risk kink. I guess it's high risk to your wallet. I would say that. Because, I'd say over the last, it's been like 18 years or so, I probably spent about $1,000 to $1,500 a year on latex. So I've probably put upwards of almost 20K, which seems like a lot, but I know there are a lot of people, like there are some well-known, latex models out there that spend way, way, way more than that. But that's still a lot of money for me. That is a risk. Your bank account may not be happy.
Fair enough. So before we move on to the part of the show we like to call Inside the Kinksters Studio, is there anything else you'd like to share with us about latex?
I'd say if you're wanting to get into it, or even if you've already started getting into it, just have fun with it. It is a very fun thing. You can be silly with it, you can be serious with it, but just have fun. Don't try to be anyone else. Don't try to, become the models or do exactly what they do. Make it your own and just enjoy it.
Gotcha.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, so now we come to the part of the show where we get to know you a little bit better in our own fun and unique way. Are you game?
I am game.
All right, so my first question is, what is your strangest or most unusual Kink Con cover story for family or coworkers?
Oh, Well, I have lots of coworkers who know everything, so I don't really have to cover at work too much. Gosh. I honestly don't know because I am so out. I guess the only ones I'm not fully out to is my family. But even then, my parents found some of my latex collection in college.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, my parents are so, vanilla and closeted that, like, they're just like, does your wife know about this? Like, yes, she does. Like, okay, we're not talking about this anymore. Well, I guess she was my fiance at the time. We weren't married yet. So I don't have any fun answer to that because I'm even slightly out on my vanilla Facebook a little bit. I don't know. I'm a very open person. I'm an open book. And so I used to not be. I used to be very self-conscious and afraid of what people would think. I used to have loads and loads and loads of shame about my latex kinks. And so I wouldn't talk too much about them, but I have done a lot of therapy. and now I don't care if people know. I'm proud of it. And I'm literally wearing latex in my Facebook profile picture.
Yay.
So I don't have a fun answer for you. I'm sorry.
No, you're
That's
fine.
Perfectly fine.
So my question is, what's something surprising that you've learned about yourself along the way?
Oh gosh, so many things. My journey with my latex kink has caused me to go through a lot of personal growth. Like I said, I had loads of shame about it. And so I had to work through all of that, and now I can be proud. I suppose one of the most surprising things was that it helped me figure out that I'm trans. Surprisingly. Would you like to hear the story?
Yes,
Sure.
please.
Do we have time for the story?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. So this was, I'd say, 8 years ago. There's a subgroup within latex kinksters, or I guess like an activity or a sub-kink called rubber dolling. And part of that is generally these cat suits that have very large breasts. They have pockets for silicone inserts that can give you very large breasts. Many men indulge in this kink, but I've also seen models wear these cat suits just to exaggerate their curves for their modeling. But obviously they're not quote unquote rubber dolling, I'd say. But I got into that for a little bit. So I guess I should clarify, I am a trans woman. And so this was back pre-transition. I got one of those suits because I really like the idea of having breasts. So I wanted one of these suits and I bought it. But at the time, I wasn't really thinking of trans. Of course, right? But after getting this and putting it on, I loved having a chest. And it was wonderful. And my wife did not care for that at the time. Yeah, that's a whole nother part of the story. I don't want to get into that. But eventually she kind of came around to it and she pegged me while I was wearing it once. And that experience of being pegged on my back, looking down and seeing these breasts on my chest, that just flipped a switch inside of me and saying, whoa, okay, what's going on here? This feels better and not quite like what I was expecting to feel like. There's something going on here, and then the trans community, a lot of people call that, your egg cracking. At least that's one of the things that kind of cracked my egg. And so that's about the time when I started therapy for gender stuff. All because this little side trip in my latex kink journey.
That is awesome. Thank you very much for sharing that. I very much appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
On a completely different note, what's it like to fart in skin-tight latex?
God.
Oh
my dog.
The first time kind of surprises you. So sometimes it gets trapped.
Oh no.
you get this little bubble in there. And depends on what kind of position it's in, whether it goes down the leg or up and out the neck right in your face.
Oh no. Oh no.
Or if you're lucky, you've got a crotch zipper, you can kind of let it out. Or yes, so it's definitely a unique experience. I have done it on a handful of occasions. I mean, you can't hold it in, right? So it's got to go somewhere.
Right.
But the suit generally keeps it pretty close to you until it works its way out. But I mean, of course, it creates a little bubble in there, and you feel the bubble moving up or down, and generally it moves pretty quickly, so it doesn't stay in for very long. But it doesn't. I mean, I guess it does make the traditional farting noise, but it's muffled because it's enclosed. But when it works its way out, it doesn't really make any sounds or anything. But you do, if it does work its way out, obviously you get it right in your face.
Unless you're into that, nope.
Yeah, no.
Nope.
But most of my stuff has crotch zippers if I'm wearing a cat suit or something, so I can mostly let leak its way out.
Here we go.
Yeah.
We ask the important in-depth
Yes.
questions.
Oh my gosh. I'm I asked something, yeah, and you're like, hey.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, here we go with me with another in-depth question. What's an insult that you've received that you're proud of?
An insult?
Yeah, that you're proud of.
Regarding latex or in general?
In general, anything. Yeah, it could be latex or just anything that you're like, nope, I'm going to own that. That's mine. You can try to insult me all you want about that, but no.
Yeah. I'm trying to think because I haven't been insulted in quite some time, and my memory isn't that great.
That's okay.
Back in high school, this wasn't a direct insult, but I came out to a friend of mine that I was into latex fashion. She and I had known each other for a while, but she had a boyfriend who was a couple of years older than us, and the next day he roughed me up for coming out and telling her that sort of, I guess, super private, bad thing. I don't know. But I wasn't going to, I didn't let that slow me down with enjoying, this kink of mine. Even though it was still high school, it was before I ever owned any latex. But by then I had been bullied enough that I wasn't going to let the further bullying, hinder me from enjoying the things that I enjoy. Not a direct insult, but I have been lucky that I don't think I've really been truly insulted as an adult regarding kink or otherwise. So I'm very thankful for that. I could
think.
Yeah, the only other thing I could say was similarly as an adult, in my transition, my extended family last year disinvited me from the family Thanksgiving and Christmas gatherings.
Ew.
So, well, we're in the Midwest here. I did my best to just let that roll off my shoulder and say, you know what? I'm a woman. I'm owning it. No matter what you say or how you think about me, it doesn't change who I am and how much I love being a woman.
Good for you.
Yes. So those aren't exactly insults, but that's pretty much the closest I've had in my experience so far.
No, I appreciate you sharing. Thank you again. And yeah, you're definitely owning it and showing them you are you, and that's amazing and important all right there.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
Yeah.
If one toy in your toy bag was to come to life, which toy would you want it to be and why?
Phew. Does it have to be a toy, or can it be one of my latex things?
Oh, we can go with one of your latex things.
I mean, I got plenty of toys to choose from, too. This is a tough one. Lots to choose from. I mean, I kind of would want one of my cat suits to come to life. Because I've kind of always had, a tiny little, symbiote fetish.
Okay.
Cool.
Obviously that's not a real thing, but, there's lots of latex symbiote porn out there. And, living latex suits. That's a thing out there. I think that would be pretty awesome. To have a living latex suit.
Nice.
Yeah. And I need to stop thinking about that.
All right, fair. Okay, serious question.
Yes.
Toilet paper roll, over or under?
Oh, definitely over. There's only one answer to that.
You'd be surprised.
Over, of course. Oh.
If animals could talk, which species do you think would be the rudest?
The rudest? Oh. Maybe llamas?
Fair.
They'd spit while they talk. I can see that.
Yeah, that's a unique question. Yeah.
Yeah, if they don't like you, they'll just
Llamas
snatch
or
it.
zebras? I've heard zebras are asses. Well, not literally, but,
My favorite question that I love to ask everybody. What's your favorite swear word?
Gosh. So, little story here. I never swore until just a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
I was such the goody-goody. Oh my gosh. Such the goody-goody. And of course, yeah. So I felt dirty to swear or say anything for longest time. I, grew up in a conservative Christian household, so honestly, the only swear word I say these days is fuck. And
if you're gonna do it right.
Yeah, and I use it in all meanings of the word, all senses of the word. I use it mostly as just kind of an exclamation, or fuck, I screwed that up, or whatever, or please fuck me. All the meanings. So I guess that's my favorite because that's the only one I say.
That works.
Mm-hmm.
And then, final question, my favorite question.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to have sex with one Muppet, which Muppet would it be and why?
Oh, gosh. I don't even know all the Muppets. That is a very good question. As I go look up the Muppet cast right now.
It's okay. We'll give you a second.
Give me a second to figure out who they... I got some of them. I can't go, obviously, I guess you give, Miss Piggy, everyone says that, right? I don't know. She's kind of my vibes. She's a diva. And I'm kind of a diva, too. I think we would vibe together. So I guess I have to say Miss Piggy. Not only because she's one of the only ones that I know, but I still feel like that is a proper answer.
That works.
Fair enough.
Awesome. Thank you.
So if somebody wants to contact you or follow you on social media, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I'm not super active on social media, so really the only place I'm active is on FetLife right now. I don't have an Instagram. I don't have that much content to post anyway, so it's mostly just FetLife. My username there is Latexhibition, LATEXHIBITION. And so that's where you can find me on FetLife.
And I will throw a link to that in our show notes, along with a link to wearlatex.com. Well, thank you for coming on the show and teaching us all about latex. You've been a great guest. For our listeners, upcoming synagogue in-person and virtual classes on Bratty Daddies, electroplay, and more. Check out our website for details on those. But that's it. That's our show. Say goodnight, little bit.
Good night, little bit.
Follow us on Facebook, FetLife, Twitter, Tumblr, and YouTube as Synagogue BDSM, and on Instagram and TikTok as Synagogue Kink. If you enjoyed or learned something from this podcast, consider making a donation via PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, Patreon, or Ko-fi. Username Synagogue, or find those links to all of those on our website, synagoguebdsm.com. Remember, that's synagogue with an I. Also on the website, links to past episodes, upcoming classes, book us as educators, shop our store, and more.
Synagogue hosts and guests are subject matter experts but are not the expert. We believe that, outside of violating consent, there is no wrong way to do kink, except to think your way is the only way. This show is presented from a RAC, risk-aware consensual kink point of view, and not SSC, safe, sane, consensual, because every individual's definition of safe is different based on their own risk profile. The use of the word safe on this show fits our definition of safe, and that does not have to be your definition. Opinions expressed by guests on the show are those of the person expressing the opinion, not of the show.
Just a reminder, we try to make our content as inclusive as possible, regardless of gender, orientation, role in the lifestyle, etc. But we do inherently speak from our own point of view. For the most part, substitute our identity with your own to make it work. We want to know when we make a mistake, so we can learn and grow from those mistakes. So if you feel like we did say something that is genuinely offensive, we encourage you to let us know. Reach out to us with your questions, comments, or concerns via our website or call us at 469-269-0403.
Brought to you today by the letters and the number.
San Diego High School Football Room!